In Argentina, swarms of mosquitoes are invading Buenos Aires.
Health authorities remind the citizens to perform preventive measures to avoid mosquito bites. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. President Marcos Jr. addresses the Australian Parliament with hopes of pushing peace in the Indo-Pacific. The Philippine Army is preparing for a large-scale combined drill dubbed Katihan training exercises. Joe Biden and Donald Trump are heading to the U.S.-Mexico border to win over voters. 17 die in Honduran bus crash. And Japanese baseball superstar Shohei Otani sends sports fans in a frenzy with a surprise announcement.
Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Nevada,
España,
Paris, France,
United Kingdom,
Washington, D.C.,
London Bureau,
Papua New Guinea,
in New York,
Washington, D.C.
Mata ng Agila,
Mata ng Agila. Mata ng Agila International.
Trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. delivered his speech to the Australian Parliament with hopes to push peace in the Indo-Pacific region.
We have long known that our prosperity and development are anchored on the peace and stability of the Indo-Pacific. Today, that peace, that stability, and our continued success have come under threat. We are called upon once again to join forces, together with our partners, in the face of threats to the rule of law, to stability, and to peace. For the Philippines, Australia plays a crucial role as one of only two partners with the Philippines, with which the Philippines has a visiting forces agreement.
This made President Marcos the first Philippine president to speak before Australia's parliament during his visit to Canberra. In a speech, he emphasized the need to protect the South China Sea to ensure continued prosperity in the region. The chief executive also reaffirmed the Philippines' commitment to not give up any of the nation's territories from foreign power. Aside from geopolitical polarities and strategic competition, the president also encouraged Australia to be a partner in promoting powerful and transformative technologies, as well as battling climate change. 3 agreements related to maritime domain, cyber-critical or cyber and critical technology, and effective implementation of competition law by 2 countries were officially signed during the visit of President Marcos to Australia. The 3 agreements are aimed at enhancing information sharing, capacity building, and interoperability between the relevant agencies of the Philippine and Australia governments.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has appointed a lawyer, Rogelio Quevedo, as Commissioner of the Presidential Commission on Good Government, or PCGG. Quevedo's appointment was announced by the Presidential Communications Office in a Facebook post. Before his new appointment, Quevedo served as the government corporate counsel, whose primary duty was to safeguard the legal interests of government-owned or controlled corporations.
The Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG, said it has fully regained control of its official Facebook page after hackers took over the account earlier this week. PCG spokesperson Rear Admiral Armando Balido said collaboration between its own cybercrime unit and the Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT, allowed them to remove 3 hackers who had breached the page's security through malware on Monday. The government's Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center identified the hackers as Fatima Hassan, Murad Kansu, and Vicky Bates based on their Facebook profiles. The PCG said a comprehensive hardware check is scheduled Friday for all laptops and computers used by its public affairs staff. The goal is to detect and eliminate any lingering malware and fortify overall cybersecurity for its social media presence.
Philippine Ambassador to the United States, Jose Manuel Romualdez, said he believed that the disputes in the West Philippine Sea is the real flashpoint, the armed conflict in Asia, and not the Taiwan Strait Row. The diplomat clarified that the tension between China and Taiwan is a concerning issue, and a Chinese takeover of the island is expected. This is due to Beijing's firm stance that Taiwan is a rebel province that broke from the mainland in 1949. The ambassador, however, claimed that Chinese President Xi Jinping will not decide to take Taiwan unless he is sure that the military takeover will be a success. Romualdez also warned about the real threats that the Philippines is facing in the West Philippine Sea, noting that one mistake made in the ongoing dispute would invoke the Mutual Defense Treaty of Nations with the United States, which would escalate the problem. Although China was not specified, the Philippine ambassador said that the Philippines would not allow to give up claim to almost all of the disputed territories. In the end, Romualdez still believed that diplomacy would be the most effective way to deal with the situation.
Over 6,000 soldiers are set to participate in the Philippine Army's inaugural Combined Arms Training Exercise, or CATEX Katihan. This event marks the Philippine Army's strategic transition from internal security to territorial defense operations. Army spokesperson Colonel Louis de Maalas said the large-scale exercise will effectively test the Army's capability to move, maneuver, and sustain large-scale forces during combat operations. The drills will take place across multiple camps in Nueva Ecija and Tarlac this March 2024. They will involve 4,706 dismounted contingents, which are units without transport, and 1,463 mounted contingents, including motorized, armored, and tracked artillery formations. These participants hail from various Army units spanning Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao.
The Department of National Defense, or DND, is looking at a possible logistics and defense collaboration with South Africa to support the country's self-reliant defense posture initiative. DND Secretary Gilberto Teodoro Jr. said partnering with South Africa would expedite the capability upgrade of the armed forces of the Philippines. Teodoro met with South African Ambassador to Manila, Bartina Entobizodwa Radebedechitense, last February 23. The two officials also reaffirmed their commitment to enhance defense and military relations between the Philippines and South Africa.
The Philippines is actively exploring potential collaborations with Cuba in the realms of rural farming and technical skills education. Last week, representatives from the Department of Education, or DepEd, engaged in a virtual meeting with counterparts from the Cuban Ministry of Education in Havana, Cuba. During this meeting, Cuban Education Director Alexander Manso shared their unique approach, which prioritizes comprehensive student development at the primary level, followed by specialized technical and professional training at the secondary level. Meanwhile, DepEd Director Margarita Ballesteros underscored the agency's collaborations aimed at delivering high-quality agricultural education and training at the secondary level. During the meeting, both the Philippines and Cuba committed to jointly implementing a program aimed at improving access to basic education for the youth in the farming sector.
Coming up, South Korean doctors on strike could end up behind bars. A region of Moldova calls on Russia's protection. And Biden and Trump are set for rival border visits. Stay tuned for more stories around the globe when we return.
niyong gawin?
Food trip! Sound trip!
How about boat na lang kaya? Ops! Road trip naman kaya?
Iba rin trip mo eh, no?
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. The government of Korea said it will arrest thousands of striking junior doctors and revoke their medical licenses if they do not return to work by Thursday. Local reports say around 3/4 of the country's junior doctors have walked out of their jobs over the past week. The protests have caused disruption and delays to surgeries at major teaching hospitals.
저희 어머니께서 이제 신장이 조금 불편하신데 어머니께서 이제 병원에 다니시면서 많이 불안해하시던 게 기억에 남습니다. 이제 우리 병원도 파업을 하면 어쩌냐라고 이제 걱정을 하시던 게 이제 기억에 남아요.
The doctors and trainees are protesting government plans to admit more medical students to university each year to increase the number of doctors in the system.
의대 증원을 하면 새로 들어오는 친구들이 아무나 들어오는 것 같아서 정원을 맞춰야 되니까 아무나 들어오는 것 같아서 믿음직스럽지 못하다. 뭐 이렇게 생각합니다.
앞으로 이제 정부가 의대에 이제 증원을 한다고 하셨는데 그렇게 되면 이제 의사를 진로로 하고 있는 학생들도 많으니까 많이 이쪽으로 의사로 많이 오실 거고 그러면은 이제 이쪽 의료진 분들한테 더 많은 혜택이라고 해야 할까요? 지금보다 더 많이 지원을 해줄 수 있지 않을까.
The government warned that there will be an acute shortage of doctors within a decade since South Korea has one of the lowest doctor-patient ratios among developed countries.
Pakistan braces for a political showdown as former Prime Minister Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf or PTI party clashes with three-time PM Nawaz Sharif's party over the position of the next prime minister. The aftermath of a tense election has resulted in a divided verdict, with Imran Khan's PTI party securing 93 seats, while Sharif's PMLN party clinched 75 seats, forming an alliance with the Pakistan People's Party, or PPP, which won 54 seats. In the race for the 23rd Prime Minister of Pakistan, the PTI has nominated Omar Ayub Khan, scion of a prominent political family and a former federal minister with experience spanning various governments. Despite his family's historical ties with the establishment, which is another term for the military, Omar has emerged as a vocal opposition figure. Conversely, the PMLN-PPP coalition has put forward Shehbaz Sharif, Nawaz Sharif's younger brother, as its prime ministerial candidate. Shehbaz, renowned for his effective governance during 3 terms as Punjab's chief minister, and given the numerical advantage, is widely anticipated to secure the prime minister's seat, buoyed by support from the military.
The newly elected government of Tuvalu has affirmed its commitment to maintaining diplomatic relations with Taiwan, rejecting pressure to switch recognition to China.
Tuvalu lo ne defenua no kotas. Sigi ailo sena taimi ke delegi saina mau ki Taiwan. Mai te kamata ngolo te faitau nga soanga o Taiwan mo Tuvalu de fe ai vaselau fituiba. Esigelo se mafulinga kite va fakatau nga so denane.
Tuvalu is among the 12 nations worldwide that officially recognize Taiwan as a democratic entity, despite China's claims that it is a part of its territory. During Tuvalu's election campaign, the issue of relations with Taiwan versus China was thrust into the spotlight when a senior lawmaker suggested the possibility of reviewing the country's ties with Taipei. Meanwhile, Tuvalu Prime Minister Felipe Teo's government has also pledged to reassess an agreement with Australia, which aimed at offering Tuvalu citizens a climate refuge in Australia.
Philippine Union Agreement dene ko ko ngola dai fa jongina de tu sa lo to Tuvalu. Metasio o provision dai lo de treaty dene fa ba mga fa ya Tuvalu. Ko manako ke fa nei ani si fe ngai nga e tau gilunga de na security mo ni si fenua. Ai manako o consult mom o foi pati mo Australia ko de me ke talia mai ni Australia tulang.
Pro-Russian rebels in a separatist sliver of Moldova have asked President Vladimir Putin to protect the region from what they claim are threats from Moldova's government. Transnistria, which split from Moldova, has remained firmly within the Kremlin's orbit, while Chisinau is bidding to join the European Union. In a special Congress, politicians in Transnistria asked Moscow to guard it from increasing pressure from Moldova, with the Kremlin later responding that protecting its compatriots was a priority. The request for Russia to help Transnistria's economy withstand Moldovan pressure was made after a meeting of hundreds of officials in the unrecognized region. The resolution came a day before the Russian President Vladimir Putin makes his annual address to Russian lawmakers, with speculations abound that Putin might bring up the Transnistrian request in his speech and express support for the region. Moldova's President Maya Sandu said her country remained committed to a peaceful resolution of the Transnistrian conflict. Moldova's pro-European government has dismissed the appeal as a propaganda event to gain headlines. The region has long been seen as a potential flashpoint with Russia in Europe, as Moldova said it would require Transnistrian companies to pay import duties to the central budget from January. U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said that they were watching the situation very closely.
Given Russia's increasingly aggressive and destabilizing role in Europe, we are watching Russia's actions in Transnistria and the broader situation there very closely. The United States firmly supports Moldova's sovereignty and territorial integrity within its internationally recognized borders.
Guatemalan President Bernardo Arevalo launches a commission that will work to free the country of corruption. This is Arevalo's main campaign promise. The new president assumed power just 6 weeks ago. Angel Membreri has more.
Guatemala's National Commission Against Corruption consists of 6 government officials and 6 members of civil society groups, indigenous peoples, and the private sector. The commission is tasked to identify and dismantle patterns of corruption. Its members include Mayan activist Ana Alvarado and Spanish analyst Daniel Herring. Herring has lived in Guatemala for years. The commission will also prepare proposals for institutional and legal anti-corruption reforms. They may report anomalous acts in public entities. President Bernardo Arevalo says taking on the challenge of governing Guatemala meant that his #1 priority is to close the flow of public resources to the corrupt. Arevalo says Guatemala can no longer tolerate corruption. Commission Executive Director Santiago Palomo underscores that corruption until before the new government has been the rule in the country's political life. He adds that Guatemalans have sadly had to witness a horde of public officials leaving the government with increasingly high and inexplicable assets resulting from opaque and corrupt businesses. The fight against corrupt political economic elites was Arevalo's main campaign promise in 2023. Angel Membreri for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The United States says it sees a growing partner in Guatemala's new government. This during high-level 3-way talks with Mexico on migration. Irvin Arquiza has more details.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken brings together his counterparts from Mexico and Guatemala. Anti-corruption campaigner Bernardo Arevalo took office as Guatemala's president last month after unsuccessful attempts by establishment forces to block him. Blinken says the U.S. is very pleased to see the transition take place and the government not only in place, but acting strongly to meet the challenges of the moment, including the challenge of irregular migration. Record numbers of migrants have been seeking to enter the U.S. Migrants are largely from Central America and Venezuela. They are fleeing poverty, violence, and disasters exacerbated by climate change. The Biden administration has agreed to greater migration enforcement measures. Blinken says, however, that the U.S. also wants to work with Mexico and Guatemala on safe, orderly, and humane migration.
Today, we are really here to double down on the collaboration that we have in dealing with migration flows. We know that all of us are living in what is genuinely a historic time. Around the world, more people on the move than at any time in recorded history. And the same is true, of course, in our own hemisphere.
Guatemalan Foreign Minister Carlos Martinez says that his country is committed under its new president to building the economy. Guatemala is one of the top sources of migrants. Irvin Arquiza from Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
U.S. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are both set to visit the U.S.-Mexico border, engaging in a high-stakes political showdown over an issue that could significantly influence the upcoming presidential election. Last year, the U.S.-Mexico border witnessed the crossing of 2.5 million undocumented migrants, leading to overwhelmed processing facilities and stretched social services in major American cities. For President Biden, this trip offers an opportunity to demonstrate his commitment to addressing immigration concerns, while Trump sees it as another chance to spotlight an issue that has long defined his political agenda.
We had the most secure border in our history. Now we have the most unsecure border in the history, I believe, really, of the world. I don't think there's ever been a country in history that's had a border where millions and millions and millions of people are flowing into our country.
However, Trump faces a new obstacle as a judge in Illinois prohibits his appearance on the state's Republican presidential primary ballot due to his involvement in the U.S. Capitol attack. Cook County Circuit Judge Tracy Porter has temporarily halted her ruling pending Trump's appeal.
Provisional results reveal that over 100,000 people in Michigan vote uncommitted in the swing state's Democratic primary. This after a protest movement urging voters to punish President Joe Biden over his support for Israel's war in Gaza. Percy Parlade has more details.
Listen to Michigan campaign organizer Layla Elabed says the state's uncommitted ballots that represent 13% of votes cast Tuesday send a clear and resounding message to President Joe Biden. That is for a permanent ceasefire now in Gaza. The Midwestern state is home to a large number of Arab and Muslim Americans. They were firmly part of the Democratic fold that helped elect Biden in 2020. Whether Biden could change strategy, and also whether the more than 100,000 voters who protested in the primary will continue to do so in November, could be key in November's presidential election. Joining the campaign against Biden are elected officials casting uncommitted ballots. These include local mayors as well as Rashida Tlaib. Tlaib is the only Palestinian American representative in Congress. Previous victories in Michigan, seen as crucial to winning the country as a whole, have been narrow. Donald Trump won by about 10,000 votes in 2016. Biden, on the other hand, won by some 150,000 in 2020. Dearborn Mayor Abdullah Hammoud says it is his hope that President Biden listens to them. Dearborn is a Detroit suburb home to a large number of Arab Americans. Hammoud says Biden has to earn the votes of the constituency that he's trying to serve. In a statement Tuesday night after his victory was declared, Biden thanked every Michigander who made their voice heard today. It did not mention the state's protest vote. Percival Parlare for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The United States Supreme Court agreed to hear Donald Trump's claim that as a former president, he is immune from prosecution. The scheduled argument is on April 22, meaning Trump's federal election interference trial will remain on hold for now. Trump welcomed the Supreme Court decision, saying without presidential immunity, a president will not be able to properly function or make decisions in the best interest of the United States of America.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre confirmed that United States President Joe Biden underwent an annual physical exam. Biden made a surprise trip to Bethesda Wednesday morning to get checked out by 20 doctors at Walter Reed. White House physician Dr. Kevin O'Connor and the medical team said that Biden is deemed for duty. Addressing concerns about cognitive decline, White House Press Secretary Jean-Pierre asserted that Biden does not need a cognitive test. Biden's health has been under scrutiny, particularly in the context of the upcoming White House election.
Process as it relates to, you were asking me about a cognitive test. As it relates to that, look, the president doesn't need a cognitive test. That is not my assessment. That is not my assessment. That is the assessment of the president's doctor. That is also the assessment of the neurologist. The president's doctor has said, if you look at what this president, the president who is also the commander-in-chief, he passes a cognitive test every day, as he moves from one topic to another topic, understanding the granular level of these topics.
The United Nations starts pulling peacekeepers out of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. This ends its 25-year presence there as conflict surges in the east of the long-troubled African state. Arlene Ocampo has more.
The Democratic Republic of Congo demands the withdrawal of the remaining 13,500 troops and 2,000 police in regions bordering Rwanda and Burundi. This despite international concerns over rampant violence. During an official ceremony at the Kamanyola base in South Kivu province, the flags of the UN and the Pakistan peacekeepers at the base are replaced by those of the DR Congo. Kamanyola base is the first to be handed over as the UN pulls out peacekeepers from the country. The DRC National Police have now taken charge. UN representative in the DRC, Bintu Keita, says this would be the model for the withdrawal from all UN bases. MONUSCO, or the UN Stabilization Mission in the DRC, was set up in 1999. It was in a bid to stop the Second DRC War, which pitted local forces backed by Angola, Namibia, and Zimbabwe against a rival force supported by Uganda and Rwanda. For a time, there were 20,000 UN troops in the DRC. UN figures show that over 270 MONUSCO peacekeepers have been killed. Kinshasa has long accused the UN force of failing to protect civilians from the armed groups in the east of the country for 3 decades. Arlene Ocampo from Atanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The United Nations condemns recent public executions in Afghanistan. It urges the Taliban authorities to cease the use of capital punishment. Mark Castillo has the details.
Afghanistan's Taliban government publicly executed 3 convicted murderers in the past week. The execution was based on death warrants signed by Afghan leader Hibatullah Akhundzada. All 3 men were shot multiple times. Their death sentence was carried out in front of large crowds that included their families. UN Human Rights Office of the High Commissioner spokesperson Jeremy Lawrence says they are appalled by these public executions at sports stadiums in Afghanistan. Public executions, the statement says, are a form of cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. The United States also condemns the public executions. The U.S. is the only Western democracy that still practices capital punishment. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller says it is another sign of the brutality that the Afghan government shows to its own people. During the Taliban's first rule from 1996 to 2001, public executions were common. Since the return to power in August 2021, a handful of executions have been conducted. The UN urges the authorities to establish an immediate moratorium on any further executions and to prohibit use of the death penalty in its entirety. It adds that corporal punishment must also cease, mainly by flogging. Corporal punishment has been common. It is employed for crimes including theft, adultery, and alcohol consumption. Amnesty International last week called the Taliban government's death penalty policy a gross affront to human dignity. Mark Castillo from Matan ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Disney strikes an $8.5 billion deal with Asia's richest man to merge their India TV and streaming media assets. Reliance, led by Asia's richest man Mukesh Ambani, will invest 1.4 billion pesos in the merger, controlling 63% of stakes in the new entity, while Disney will own about 37%. Ambani called the business deal a landmark agreement as it would capture both digital and TV rights out of prized cricket sporting events in India. The deal also comes when Disney is facing pressure globally to streamline its businesses. The merger needs approval from regulators to proceed. Sources say it will be completed at the end of this year or early next year.
Up next, a frustrated elephant attacks a tourist. Two buses collide head-on in western Honduras. And NASA astronauts are gearing up for a watery welcome. Please don't go away. We've got more stories when Mata ng Agila International returns.
This portion is brought to you by Robic Builders.
Stocks, money market, cryptocurrency, properties are just some of the common investment vehicles we are familiar with. Vince Rapisura, financial guru and a successful social entrepreneur who founded the Social Enterprise Development Partnerships, will let us in the world of cooperatives as an investment vehicle. Learn about the functions of cooperatives and how it helps small entrepreneurs access financing as they open for business.
Itong investment na ito ang pang-retirement, pangpatayo ng bahay, pagpaaral sa aking anak. Kaya mo ba talagang ilagay yan sa isang investment na pwede kang malugi? So, you go into safer investments.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Sunday 25.
This portion is brought to you by North Luzon Express Terminal.
Argentina health authorities advise the citizens of Buenos Aires to perform preventive measures against the ongoing mosquito invasion on the South American nation's capital. This includes the use of repellents, mosquito nets, and the wearing of long-sleeve clothing. Specialists explain that the mosquitoes present in Buenos Aires are Aedes albifasciatus species, the insects that are said to be carriers of the Western equine virus. University of Buenos Aires researchers said that the peak of abundance of the mosquitoes is due to the rainy season in the country. They also added that the Aedes albifasciatus species are described as flood mosquitoes, as inundated areas are favorable places for them to lay eggs. The researchers disclosed that the peak of abundance would decline after 10 days or more than a week, depending on the weather.
A frustrated elephant used for rides has attacked a Russian tourist, picking her up, then violently slamming her on the ground in India. Animal rights group PETA claimed that the female elephant named Gauri was in mental distress as a result of enduring lifetime enslavement causing mental trauma. In 2022, the same elephant attacked a shopkeeper near Amir Fort. The victim sustained injuries, breaking his ribs and one of his legs. This made PETA ask state officials to transfer Gauri to a sanctuary for rehabilitation. A 2018 report commissioned by the Animal Welfare Board showed that 19 out of 102 elephants used for tourist rides at Amir Fort were suffering from physical ailments.
In northwestern Honduras, more than a dozen people are dead and several others injured after two buses collided on a narrow, windy, and hilly road. Philip Toledo has the details.
17 people died when two buses collided Wednesday in northwestern Honduras. Another 12 people were injured. The crash happened at dawn on a curvy, mountainous road. The road has a single lane in each direction. One of the buses was empty after dropping off a group of migrants on the border with Guatemala. He was headed back to central Honduras. The other, a smaller bus, was headed in the opposite direction. It was full of passengers for the city of Santa Rosa de Copan. The injured were taken to a hospital some 300 kilometers from the Honduran capital of Tegucigalpa. Local media reports that all the victims were Honduran. Road accidents are the second cause of death in Honduras after murders. Philip Toledo for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
A ship powered by renewable energy, including hydrogen produced on board, is docked in Florida, United States. The 30-meter-long catamaran ship, dubbed the Energy Observer, is preparing to finish the last leg of its voyage around the world. This particular global trip started in 2020. The ship mission uses solar panels and advanced sails called Ocean Wings as a power source in multiple climates off the coasts of Africa, Asia, and Antarctica.
This boat is very, very special, the only one like this in the world, because we are able to make hydrogen on board, and after we use hydrogen to charge our batteries and to power and to sail only with the sun, with hydrogen and with the wind. So no diesel on board, nothing, all is clean on this ship.
The ship has logged 63,040 nautical miles without using fuel since it first started sailing in 2017. The boat is also a floating lab created to test different renewable energies on board the ship. The project aims to find a solution for tomorrow's maritime transport and to educate people about renewable energies and solutions to limit man's impact on the planet.
The southern Great Barrier Reef is suffering from extensive coral bleaching due to heat stress. The Great Barrier Reef's managers have raised fears that a seventh mass bleaching event could be unfolding across the vast ecologically important site. Aerial surveys conducted last weekend by the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority and Australian Institute of Marine Science found bleaching was extensive and fairly uniform across all surveyed reefs. The teams flew over 27 inshore reefs in the Keppel Islands and Gladstone region and 21 offshore reefs in the Capricorn Bunkers off the coasts of southern Queensland last weekend. Covering nearly 133,000 square miles, the Great Barrier Reef is the world's largest coral reef, home to more than 1,500 species of fish and 411 species of hard corals, contributing billions of dollars to the Australian economy annually, and is promoted heavily to foreign tourists as one of the world's greatest natural wonders. Soaring ocean temperatures are fueling destructive bleaching of the reef as the world continues to burn planet-heating fossil fuels. Ocean temperatures are also becoming even hotter under the current El Niño, which is one of the strongest on record.
In 2020, NASA arranged a convention for a safe, peaceful, and prosperous exploration in deep space. With 36 nations currently signed to the non-binding treaty, the Artemis Accords highlighted best practices in such operations in the outer space. JD Mahinay explains.
8 founding nations, namely Australia, Canada,
Italy, Japan, Luxembourg, the United Arab Emirates, the United Kingdom, and the United States inked a series of non-binding bilateral arrangements on October 13, 2020, to peacefully and safely cooperate in the civil exploration of the Moon, Mars, comets, and asteroids. Dubbed Artemis Accords, the convention sets the best practices, guidelines, and principles to improve exploration in outer space for peaceful purposes. The U.S. Space Agency, NASA, prepared the said agreement to build the legacy of its Apollo program. Under the Artemis Accords, the undersigned nations are urged to reaffirm their commitment to the 1967 Outer Space Treaty. Signatories are also committed to the open sharing of scientific data in their space explorations. Co-signers are expected to exchange information in their space mission, as well as render necessary effort and assistance to personnel in outer space. The Artemis Accords are political commitments as negotiations remain intact between parties. The Accords also explicitly relied on the Outer Space Treaty, as stated in its documents, which made it seem to be unipolar. Analysts mull this could be a reason for Russia and China to not sign the Accords, as Beijing's plans to build an international lunar research station would violate the 1967 treaty. As of February this year, there are 36 nations signed the Artemis Accords, with Uruguay being an addition. More on, the Accords remain as a baseline for extraterrestrial activities as much as there are still negotiations done. JD Mahina reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
NASA astronauts and United States Navy personnel are now training for the ocean landing of the Artemis II space capsule. NASA plans to send the team for the space mission in 2025. NASA astronaut Reed Wiseman has shared his experience, saying they are excited to be the first crew in over 50 years to go to the moon and back. Jeremy Hansen, another member of the space team, said it is complicated to fly into deep space, and it is extraordinary to watch people coming together to figure out how to execute the mission.
So much of the driver will be the weather. Once this mission takes off, it is 10 days and the capsule is coming back to Earth. They can dictate a little bit as to where, but less when. And so any weather conditions that kick up or the time of re-entry, all of that will be driving the difficulty or the ease of the capsule recovery.
We explore because that's what we do as humans. And at this point, with everyone on this planet having the resources in many countries, the capabilities and interest in exploring the moon, the question really isn't why we go, it's are we going to lead or are we going to follow?
Coming right up, Prince Harry faces a hefty legal bill. A Willy Wonka experience leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth. And baseball superstar Shohei Otani breaks the internet. Catch the latest in sports and entertainment. Mata ng Agila International will be back.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka naming tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Crown Prince Haakon of Norway has shared a health update about his father, King Harald V. King Harald is in Malaysia for a private trip but has been admitted to Sultana Malia Hospital due to an infection. Crown Prince Haakon confirmed that King Harald is feeling better and in good spirits. The royal crown prince said that what the king needs now is to be in the hospital for a few more days and get some peace and rest. King Harald has had several illnesses in recent months. He underwent heart surgery in 2020. Royal officials said that Crown Prince Haakon will be carrying on with the king's existing planned engagements in Norway.
Prince Harry has lost the High Court challenge against the British government's decision to strip him of his police security. The Duke of Sussex wants to overturn a ruling which saw his security status downgraded after he stopped being a working royal in 2020. Prince Harry claimed that he believed he was at a greater risk of being harmed than his mother, Princess Diana, due to racism and extremism. High Court documents also revealed that Al-Qaeda had called for Prince Harry to be killed after he wrote about killing Taliban fighters. But a judge ruled that the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures had the legal right to strip Harry of his Metropolitan Police bodyguards when he quit his full-time royal duties in 2020. The Home Office previously said security for Prince Harry and his family should be decided on a case-by-case basis. Lawyers of Prince Harry argued there was unfairness in how the decision was made, saying Harry was not asking for preferential treatment for a fair and lawful application of Ravik's own rules. His lawyers said they would appeal the court's decision.
Scotland police were prompted by unhappy families after facing disappointment at a Willy Wonka-themed event in Glasgow. Advertised as a day filled with laughter, joy, and the irresistible allure of chocolate, the immersive event based on Roald Dahl's popular story left hopeful attendees with a tragic tale. On the official website, the Willy's Chocolate Experience promised visitors to witness whimsical performances and surprises at every turn while using images that appear to be generated by AI. However, viral photos and videos taken at the venue show a large and sparsely decorated warehouse opposite of the supposed features promoted by its organizers. Furious families who spent Sundays or hundreds of pounds to see the show have complained about the awful event that left their children in tears. Other guests who traveled substantial distances also stated that they never had a chance to get inside as it was abruptly closed only hours after its opening. Scotland police were called to respond and give advice after the crowd became angrier as they demanded for ticket and transportation refunds. Organizers of the Willy's Chocolate Experience event released a public apology on their Facebook page and confirming the full refund to customers, which is estimated to take a process of 10 days.
Geisha and Maiko are starting to return to Kyoto as their commutes have always been a famous attraction for tourists and locals alike. Geisha are women who perform Japanese traditional arts such as singing, dancing, and playing instruments to entertain customers, with Maiko being their apprentices or so-called geisha in training. However, visitors trying to snap photos of them as they make their way through the streets sometimes hinder the performers from getting to their destinations, even going as far as to harass the women have forever been a bane of their daily lives. These tourists have been branded as geisha paparazzi. Geisha paparazzi incidents have reached a boiling point with Japanese authorities after reports of badly behaved visitors tugging at women's kimonos, chasing them around with cameras and smartphones, pulling out their hair ornaments or kanzashi, and even hitting them with cigarette butts. Foreign tourists sometimes need help understanding Japanese customs and etiquette. Kyoto created pamphlets to illustrate travel nuisance activities like littering, using selfie sticks, smoking in prohibited areas, and taking photos of geisha and Maiko. Now, Gion's local council has issued an ordinance to charge violators of up to 10,000 yen as a possible deterrent. Baseball superstar Shohei Otani, one of Japan's most eligible bachelors, has announced that he is married, stirring a frenzy on social media. The Los Angeles Dodgers star's announcement came as a shock as he has closely guarded his private life. The 29-year-old said in an Instagram post, and I quote, "I wanted everyone to know I am now married." Otani continues to describe his bride as someone very special to him, including a quote saying that he expects them to grow together, 2 people plus 1 dog. The post garnered 1 million likes in less than an hour to mixed reviews. Congratulatory messages poured in for Otani, although quite a few were heartbroken that the Japanese nation's sweetheart was no longer available. The LA Dodgers congratulated him in a post on X attached to a video with a caption that read, "When you have a baseball game and a wedding to get to on the same day. Congratulations to Shohei Otani on his new marriage." Otani did not reveal the identity of his bride so as not to attract any unwanted media attention, leaving fans guessing who she could be.
Adele has been forced to postpone her Las Vegas residency next month due to illness. The Grammy Award-winning singer announced on Instagram that doctors ordered her to rest. The Hello singer apologized to fans for the inconvenience, explaining she had not fully recovered after falling ill at the end of her last residency. Adele did not disclose what she was suffering from. It is the second time that Adele has postponed her Las Vegas show dates. In January of 2022, she postponed her residency due to COVID-19 and ran it from November 2022 until March 2023.
Sean Diddy Combs is being sued in federal court by a producer on his most recent album, who accuses the music mogul of sexually harassing, drugging, and threatening him for more than a year. The producer, Rodney Lil Rod Jones, says in the lawsuit that he lived and traveled with Combs from September 2022 to November 2023, during which time he recorded hours of video and audio of Combs, his staff, and others engaging in serious illegal activity. Among the allegations is that Combs forced Jones to produce or procure sex workers and pressured him to engage in unwelcome sexual acts with them and others, with Combs allegedly giving laced beverages to people who attended parties at his homes. The lawsuit includes what it says are screenshots from gatherings hosted at Combs' homes that included minors. The suit also named Combs' adult son, Justin, his chief of staff, Christina Quorum, Universal Music Group CEO Sir Lucian Grange, and former Motown Records CEO Ethiopia Habtemariam as defendants. The accused alleges that they worked together with Diddy to establish a RICO enterprise that failed to adequately monitor, warn, or supervise the actions of the rap icon and mogul. A RICO enterprise is any individuals or groups that act together to violate the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. Representatives for Quorum, Grange, Motown Records, and Love Records did not immediately respond to requests for comment, but an attorney for Combs said that Jones' accusations were nothing more than a transparent attempt to garner headlines. Jones is seeking $30 million in damages.
English pop star Kate Bush has happily accepted her role as this year's Record Store Day Ambassador amidst a celebration of vinyl resurgence and new exclusive releases from top artists. Catherine Ertula has the scoop.
Kate Bush has made a rare public appearance after taking up the mantle as this year's Record Store Day Ambassador, stating that it really is a great privilege. Her legendary comeback is also fueled by her 1985 hit, Running Up That Hill, which topped the charts 38 years later as the song was featured in the popular Netflix series Stranger Things. Bush's promotion of the initiative will help support the Record Store Day event, which celebrates independent record shops and vinyl collectors across the United Kingdom. In honor of the celebration happening this April 20th, Bush will release a special 10-inch vinyl record of Eat the Music from her 1993 album, The Red Shoes. On her official website, Bush also expressed her excitement about how the resurgence in vinyl has taken the music industry by complete surprise. Vinyl sales for this year's edition of Record Store Day have hit a 33-year high. It is expected that hundreds of limited edition, one-off albums and singles will be released for the event, offering a varied lineup that includes the Beatles, David Bowie, Olivia Rodrigo, the 1975, and more. Catherine Ertula for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
It's Thursday, and to send you off, here's a quote from American actor and wrestler John Cena. When people show loyalty to you, you take care of those who are with you. It's how it goes with everything.
And you know, truly people come and go in life, but I think the ones that stay are those who are loyal to you, not just through your highs, but especially through your lows.
And I remember the other night we were just talking about love that we get from people who aren't actually family, but they are like family in that they have treated you so well and they've remained loyal to you.
Yes, sometimes it actually puzzles you, like, why do they love me too much if we're not blood related? But those are the people that you truly treasure.
And we're thankful for the love. And before we say goodnight, for those who are still on the road right now, please tune in to Agila FM 95.5.
You can also catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Elago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Thank you for choosing Mata ng Agila International, your trusted news source, connecting you to the world and on point with stories from around the globe. Follow, like, and subscribe to @Net25 TV.